What in the hell is going on with 0 Hour? This $10 tactical first-person shooter that somehow is taking Steam and the rest of the internet by storm. Someone get security to the rear. I'm with Shield.
I do not know how to
upstairs.
any of us.
Yeah, make sure someone's on the stairs.
Holy shit. He's lighting up Shield. Hey!
Wow.
Hey, nice.
Still another back there in that
Yeah,
back.
I'm gonna kill flashlight.
Push, 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 push. Zero Hour is a tactical, first-person shooter with online, team-based gameplay that takes place in a variety of fictional locations interpreted in Bangladesh with real-life scale and resource management. It brings a grounded, close-quarters combat experience to gameplay. Well, at least that's what the Steam store says. Zero Hour is indeed a tactical first-person shooter focusing heavily on SWAT gameplay and specifically player versus player combat. It is developed by M7 Productions, a new indie studio that focuses on this title alone. The game runs for $10 on Steam, which brings with it some skepticism. After all, if you're promising an immersive and an epic tactical shooter experience, it's hard to believe you would give it away for $10. What was most appealing about Zero Hour to me, at least the thought of it, was the concept of highly tactical, close quarters battle, player versus player gameplay. There's no other game that delivers it. The closest thing you could even kind of compare it to would be Rainbow Six Siege, but Rainbow Six is not a tactical shooter. It is an arcade-style Twitch shooter with some tactical elements. Zero Hour, on the other hand, is a hardcore tactical shooter, and it even reminds you of that when you launch the game for the first time, where M7 Productions takes a moment to remind you to move slowly, play tactically, use your voice communication, and be a member of a team. When you click through the initial pop-up screen, you'll encounter a simple menu screen and a simple user interface that seems to work reasonably well, but doesn't offer a ton of customization. When I dove into the keybinds and the video settings, I was able to customize the game to my liking, and I was satisfied with the way I got it to look and feel. After I finished customizing my settings, I went into the training menu and I spent some time in the shoot house, getting familiar with the way the weapons handle and moving through a series of rooms, engaging targets, practicing my reloads, transitioning to the pistol, and trying to score the best time that I possibly could. I have to admit it was satisfying, and the gun felt pretty good, if not a little bit floaty, but for a $10 tactical shooter, I was pretty impressed. After I finished up with the training, I went ahead and I dove into a quick match. Matchmaking was pretty snappy, and I was quickly paired with 9 other players, 2 teams of 5, and placed into a PvP match. The PvP mode is pretty simple. There's only 2. There is a hostage mode and a bomb mode. Interestingly, both of the modes have a hostage. The only difference is in the hostage mode, you have to secure the hostage and transport that hostage out of the building or eliminate all enemy players. And in the bomb mode, that hostage is now wearing a suicide vest that you must defuse or, once again, eliminate the enemy team. The attackers represent some of the elite units in the Bangladeshi special operations community and the police force, and the defenders are your run-of-the-mill terrorist insurgents. The attackers are able to choose from an M4 carbine variant, a SCAR variant, a shotgun, or a MAC-10, or a riot shield. The defenders, on the other hand, are stuck with a MAC-10. Before the round begins, the attacking team is able to look at a 3D model of the area that they will be assaulting, and they're able to draw on that 3D model so that they can coordinate spawn locations, routes to the target, breach points, and where they may enter into the building to ultimately kill or capture all the enemies and rescue the hostage. The defenders, on the other hand, are able to position the hostage where they choose to in the structure, as well as set up booby traps, position different cameras, and position themselves throughout the structure. Once everybody's ready to go, the round begins. The rounds last 4 to 6 minutes, depending on how long it takes for everybody to get killed or for the objective to be accomplished. The assaulters will move to the building and then have the option to enter through windows, balconies, and doors. They also have the ability to rappel, tossing a grappling hook up to the top of the roof and then scaling the sides of the building and making entry in some pretty incredible cinematic ways into the building. The defenders, on the other hand, frequently find themselves sitting in corners, pieing off those corners and moving very quietly around the building to make as little noise as possible so that they're able to ambush the attackers as they try to get inside and accomplish their mission. One of the things that does fall a little bit short is the sound design, and you're able to hear the enemy moving around in the building and you're able to pay close attention to your surroundings, but there's just something hollow about the way that the sound design exists right now, and there's plenty of sounds that are missing, including the explosion sound and the flashbang sound, which are very clearly placeholders at the moment. There's also just something about the ambient noise in the game that needs to be tuned or made to sound more convincing, because as it stands it can be disruptive and distracting and doesn't deliver the perfect cinematic experience that you might want from a game of this nature. All in all though, some sound design issues, some bugs here and there, some inherent clunkiness in any indie titles, especially one that has just launched and especially one that only costs $10, is hardly a reason not to pull the trigger on 0 Hour. The game is fun, and it seems like a difficult task to design a game that turns close quarters battle into a fun game mode. That's exactly what 0 Hour manages to do. You have just enough time to plan your assault, you have a really interesting way to approach the building and enter the building, you can turn off the lights to force the fight to take place in the dark, and then everyone has to fight using their tac lights or squint at their computer screen to see if they can manage to identify targets. All of this turns into a really eerie, a high tension, high pressure, teamwork driven, close quarters battle that is really difficult to replicate in any other game. If I had to make a comparison for 0 Hour, I would call it a blend of Rainbow Six Siege in its PvP CQB mechanics, as well as Ground Branch control, feel, graphics, and tactical shooter nature. In that regard, it is kind of the perfect blend of things that I look for in a game like this, and it fills an important void in gaming right now, as Ground Branch hasn't yet given us a truly convincing PvP format. Rainbow Six Siege has taken a turn for the worse, and hopes for the release of Ready or Not anytime soon, especially with any sort of functioning PvP system, are dwindling, to say the least. Knowing that, supply is low and demand is high for a game like 0 Hour, and M7 Productions has managed to deliver an affordable experience that is fun. It is imperfect, it is clunky, it needs work, it is bugged, but it is $10, and it is fun. And I happily recommend 0 Hour to you if the type of gameplay mechanics that I have described in this video are appealing. I'm Controlled Pairs. I play the most immersive PC games in the world. This is 0 Hour.